Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. We are joined once again by legendary strength coach, according to Men's Health Magazine, and many others, Dan John. And we're going to talk about exercises almost nobody does, but should, our top secret renegade movements, I suppose. And Dan also said we should talk about exercises that everybody does, but shouldn't. We're going to reverse it. So how's
Yeah,
that? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Thanks for bringing that. It's just one of those things, Pat. The first thing I guess we should state, and it's an important point. I'm not sure if everything I'm about to say is 100% true, but this is what I was told. So, Tom Plummer mentioned that only 14% of Americans have any kind of like gym membership or have exercise equipment in the home.
That probably strikes me as about right from when I look around. Mm-hmm.
And then I would argue that very, very few people utilize your gym memberships. I can't tell you how many people I know will say, "Well, I got a gym membership, but and there's a chain place here." Yeah, how often do you go? Well, it was $9 a month, so I signed up. Well, so you went once 3 years ago, but they've been tapping you for $9. And to get out of those contracts, the only really way to do it is to cancel that credit card.
Right. Yeah.
That's it. They ping that credit card, and it's all and it's brilliant because $9.95. When I look at my credit card statements, if I see something under 100, I barely even look at it.
Yeah, well, that's the kind of brilliant sickness of it. It's kind of sickly brilliant because that whole business model really just banks on people not taking advantage of your services, right? Because there's no way that, that they could accommodate all the members they actually have, right? So they just bank on their fee being just not annoying enough, and just relying on you essentially not being motivated enough to actually go to the gym, but also not motivated enough to not cancel your membership either. It's really not a great thing, but you kind of have to admire the cleverness of it in some
win-win,
respect, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You're not going to use our stuff, but we're going to charge you for it. But the second you go to cancel, it'd be like, yeah, I really should go to the gym. And then so you keep the membership.
Yeah, it's only $10, right? I'll do it next month.
Nine.
Oh, it's only
Number
9.
is important because at $9.98 or $9.97, you're not going to look at it. So I figure only about 1 in 20 Americans, and I'm pretty sure about this, do what you and I are talking about, called exercise. And I don't think there's any shock to say that. That's Earl Nightingale number. If you want to be on the top of anything, just get yourself in the 5%. It's rare air. Like I've told you before, if you want to be a top 5% author of all time, you got to sell 10,000 books. That's it. That's not very many.
No, it's not.
But
no, it's not.
I don't know. Now there is a thing called power laws. So gentle listener, but I would argue this. There's 2 movies I don't really. I acknowledge that they're good movies. One is called Avatar, and the other one is called Titanic. And I think they're both by James Cameron. James Cameron probably has made more money in movies by himself than, let's say, certainly 95% of the actors, directors, key grips in history. I think that's this is what's called a power law. So when you add up almost every movie from 1912 to today, almost every movie, and then you take a couple of James Cameron's outliers, the income would probably be the same. That's one of the ways you look at power laws. And from what I see, and God bless you, and to be successful, you don't really have to. Pat, it's going to sound weird, but it doesn't take much to get yourself in that top 5% in anything in life. One of my goals as a writer, professor, athlete has always just to make sure I'm in the top 5% in everything I try to do. Now that's
I like that because that is it might sound daunting, but when you actually analyze what that range is, the top 5%, you find out things like, oh, I just have to sell 10,000 books, right? I don't have to sell 10 million.
Yeah.
Whereas if you think that it involves being Michael Phelps, well, of course, that's not going to be accessible to most people because most people aren't born with web feet, for example, right?
Yeah.
But the top 5%. Yeah, that's an interesting and different sort of range, which I would argue for most people with a good system and some good effort is actually quite accessible. Right.
I would say it's doable almost on everything you attempt in life.
Yeah. That's cool.
And mostly because, you know, a couple of years back, I was asked to speak at a school I taught at a long time to talk to the seniors about success, because they probably were just scraping the barrel. And it's interesting because they brought the Judge Memorial here in town. That I figured they were just scraping the barrel that year. But you know, one of the things I thought about that talk a lot going in and a lot after. The mistake I made is that, you know, Judge Memorial, fairly affluent, very white, East Side, which is, you know, Catholic high school. You know, most of the students will fall into the same rhythm that their parents and their grandparents have. At some schools I've taught, at that school, especially in other schools across the nation, it's not unusual to have family trees of the child is at the school, the parent went to the school, the grandparents went to the school, and in many cases, the great grandparents went to the school. And then you have a very successful life. You go to that school, you go to this, you know, go to the University of Utah, whatever, it doesn't matter. And then you come back and there's nothing wrong with that, there's nothing wrong with that. But to sometimes, even when you're successful, you still you don't necessarily get yourself into that top 5% when you break free and you experiment and you see things
and you really stand out. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Totally.
I had a student who was very wealthy, and parents pulled him out for his 16th birthday to give him a round the world tour. And I told him, you know, I didn't think it was a good idea to leave school for a month and a half, but I want to, you know, I want to talk, you know, for your assignment, you and I will talk after, but, you know, and we'll learn some things. Well, the kid they stayed in 5-star hotels. So on most of the trip, the kid never left the hotel.
Yeah. I mean, well, why would you, right?
Yeah, why would you want to go outside in Paris or you know, Athens or you know as my dad used to say, Timbuktu. Yeah. So even if my point is, many people have the opportunity to do the things we're going to talk about and choose not to.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
Long-winded, lost point, but it made sense to me. Okay.
Makes sense to me and sounds good. So why don't we, by the way, gentle listeners, put your questions in. We're a little shorter on time today because I have to bounce around 9:40, but if we have time at the end, we will take questions. But until then, yeah, why don't we get into these exercises, Dan? Where do you want to start? The ones that nobody does but should, or the ones that everybody does but shouldn't?
Okay, let me say this. This is going to break a lot of hearts. From my experience, the worst exercises you can do for your body in the gym are, and I'll just do a top to bottom for you: bench press, lat pull down, leg press, leg extension. All those 4 exercises. Oh, and any kind of ab curl machine. Those exercises have been proved. I tell you, have been. Each of them has an issue with tracking the human body a certain way that over time will aggregate injuries. You know, if you had a rotator cuff from throwing a baseball, bench will hurt that. If you have neck issues, lat pull downs can exacerbate that. Leg extensions, the patella is made to track in a way it probably shouldn't. The leg press, and by God, why are people still thinking a big leg press is impressive? It stuns me when I go to commercial gyms and I see the guy with fake blonde hair and the faux hawk just loading up all the crap on the leg press and then putting
jeans. Usually has jeans on, right?
Yeah, jorts. Yeah. So basically, a lot of the exercises people do probably aren't a good idea. Now you walk over,
and I will confirm this in my poorly conducted observational studies at the local YMCA that these are in fact exercises that almost everybody does.
Yeah,
those are the crowded. That's the crowded equipment right there, right?
Yeah, and those are all probably the worst things. Well, not the worst. These are probably all. They all have issues, and it's not something you want to hear. When you walk over to the yoga studio, there's probably 4, 5, or 6 moves that, you know, my umbilical hernia was caused by my, Bikram yoga instructor pushing
Yikes.
my shoulders when I was doing the exercise called the lion or something like that.
Yeah,
Mm,
it really is interesting how many people get jacked up doing
yeah,
yoga, right? Because the kind of assumption here is like, oh, this is going to be really restorative and
yeah,
rejuvenative and refreshful. And then, yeah, there's a lot, as I'm sure
yeah,
you've encountered, as I have, Dan, a lot of people who come in pretty wrecked from the yoga
yeah,
experience,
and
right?
then, the lotus position, of course, really gives a lot of laxity to the tendons and ligaments. To get in that position, you have to make compromises. Yeah, some people are born to do it, and that's great. Um, and then you walk over to, the step aerobics, and a lot of the jump twist movements are very rough on the knee. When they do the steps. Um, and what it's sounding like is it's sounding like I'm being very negative, and I'm not. It's just that these popular movements very often define what people do, but they're
Mhm.
the worst choices.
Yes, yes. And to be clear, again, just to add there's always exceptions to things. We grant that, and there's always nuance. But I think minimally what we're saying is like, look, of all the things that you could choose to do in the gym, in terms of what you get out of it versus what you risk by doing it, these are not your most ideal selections,
Right,
right?
on
Mhm.
cost to benefit, that you nailed it. But, I mean, having someone pop down on a bench press and just lay on their back and then push the weight vertical doesn't take a lot of coaching. Leg press doesn't take a lot of coaching. Leg extension doesn't take a lot of coaching. Lat pull down, I mean,
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. There's certain exercises that should be coached if you want to do it in the best way possible and the safest way possible. But there's something about that exercise that sort of lets people hack their way through it in a way that you can't with other exercises that demands that you actually spend time learning the proper technique, if that makes sense, right?
yeah.
And like the bench press is an obvious one. Most people have quite poor bench press technique, right? Because it's kind of easy to hack your way through that exercise in a way that you can't really do with kettlebell snatches because you get such immediate kind of vicious feedback if your technique is off, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah. In fact, it's funny you say kettlebell snatches because that was gonna be number 1 on my list
Of the good or the bad,
of the good of
of the nice.
exercises, yeah, you should see in the gym.
Well,
Now
should we turn to that? Now we have the naughty list. Is there anything else you want to put on the naughty list, or should we turn to the
I'm
nice list?
You know what? Let's ask the gentle listeners, because that's, I only had a chance to think of this, 3 or 4 minutes ago.
Yeah, I don't prep Dan for these. I say, hey Dan, let's talk about this today.
Yeah. So, there's maybe more, but what's funny is how many leaped out into my head. Here's another thing. It's running. There's nothing. Folks, you're built to run. I get that. However, I'm going to get in shape. So tomorrow I'm going to go out and run. And, they're boom, 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 boom. Maybe the last thing somebody who's morbidly obese should do.
Right, and it's not just the thing that sort of complicates this conversation a little bit is it's not just the selection, but the application. Like you said, running is fine in certain applications, but oftentimes what happens is people will say, "I'm just going to run, and I'm going to run an inappropriate amount on a treadmill when I'm not conditioned for it," and then my knees and hips have all sorts of issues, and
Yeah.
I get very demotivated because I don't see the changes as quickly as I want, and so on and so forth. Right? Yeah. But yeah, gentle listeners, please comment. And I see suggestions already coming in. Comment your naughty list. What exercises do you see a lot of people doing that you think maybe aren't the best choice, either in the stream or in the video after the stream? And Dan, why don't we turn to the nice list now? What are some exercises that you think are largely neglected, but people should pay attention to and are worth it? Mhm.
Well, I'm just going to say this. Sadly, the Olympic lifts have disappeared. But honestly, I think a power clean and press, and I've said this, I've been quoted on this. I said it probably in 1998 online. If all you did was clean and press, you'd look awesome. But to me, the clean and press and the Olympic snatch are two exercises that do so much good. But the problem is, it's hard that what muscle does this build thing doesn't work with them. It builds every muscle. But so let's break it down and make it simpler. I wish I saw more people doing a kettlebell snatch with a hinge, or even a dumbbell snatch from the dead stop, because you get that huge, I basically have a little formula. I don't think it's exactly right, but basically, if you're doing a kettlebell snatch, you're probably, this is my own, you're probably moving the load your body height, because as you reach behind, that's almost like putting it on the ground. So every rep, you're pulling that load through the height of your body, if not more. And then someone's going to say, well, it's probably less than, okay, whatever, but you know what I mean. There's something about an exercise like the kettlebell snatch. I'll just stay with kettlebell snatch, where your whole body has to work in concert. It's extremely exhausting. It's if you've done enough of them or any. It doesn't really have that what muscle does build answer. I would say so. Kettlebell snatch is number 2, and I see someone already put it up there. The loaded carry family, and I would just give you if let's just break it down this way. If farmer walks, the suitcase carry, and prowler, those 3, if that's all you did, the majority of people would be just very happy.
With snatches. Yeah, that's great, because those exercises really they kind of are the cure for what ails America, being like this all the time as we are right now, right? Really trying to get that shoulders on the shelves and the good posture and the great posterior engagement of the snatch. We know that it's kind of funny, because we're constantly in this sort of hunched over position as Americans, whether we're on our computer or on our phone, right?
Yeah.
Yet then when we go in the gym, we just do a bunch of pushing.
Right, because we're lifting weights. And it's weird, because lifting weights has become this, get it off my chest, where when I was young, it was picking them up off the floor.
Right. Yeah. Snatches, the carrying family. Awesome. What else do you want to put on the list? And you're right. Again, my poorly conducted observational study confirms, Dan, that I see almost nobody doing this when I go to the local YMCA. Well, now I'm going to conduct a little more research later today. Maybe it will change after this podcast, but this is the data at the moment. Yes.
In 2002, in the summer of 2002, Mike Rosenberg and I talked about this, and he summed up the way I coach weightlifting. He says, 1, pick weights off the ground. 2, put them overhead. 3, carry weights for time or distance. And what you'll notice is that little formula. So if what you don't see enough of is the deadlift family, the overhead work family, and the loaded carry family. So boom, boom, and boom. I'm not going to, the problem with squats is that puts a lot of people down a rabbit hole. Because the second that's my knock on back squats. If back squats has become the go-to for squats, that's it. I say squats, you think back squats. Squats, back squats, squats, back squats. You say pull, I say pull, push, pull. Sorry about that.
Remember, we don't charge you people for that on the podcast. Just remember, that one was free.
I apologize for that. But this has become this is what weightlifting is. On my back, on a bench, pushing it vertical.
Right.
And I think it's much better for almost every person I know to take the weight here and push it vertical. Yeah. So the load is lighter. The stability you need to hold weights overhead. Yesterday was my push jerk workout. It's Olympic lifting. And even though I've been around a long time, I've put a lot of weights over my head. When I'm holding the weight here, whether it's 385 or yesterday it was 165, when I got that load there, my body works overtime just to do something as simple as prepare the weight to come down,
Yes.
Lock it. So those would be the 3. Can
I add 2 more that I think you'll endorse, Dan? Yeah, I think one is, you mention it all the time. I have to bring it up. Just hanging, right? I almost never see anybody hanging at the gym. And the other one would just be let's just call it the general family of groundwork, the Tim Anderson type of stuff. The crawling, the rocking. So between those 2, I think there's so much utility of just to use Dan John phraseology of knitting the body back together, right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. That's that. Well, there you go. There's 5 movements right there. So, in fact, isn't that funny? I mean, you can't see it because it's inside my computer, but the Easy Strength Omnibook is about to come out. And what is my basic go? Listen to my basic go-to. It's a vertical push. It's a vertical pull, hang, and you start with hangs and you move from there. And it's a deadlift. It's an ab wheel, which is on the ground. And then from there, it's either swings or a loaded carry. So basically, yeah, you said it. I like the idea of doing goblet squats and Turkish get-ups in a warm-up, especially my favorite. In fact, I stole this idea from you, is just saying we're going to do 5 minutes of Turkish get-ups. And people who've been around, some people just go through and do get up left, get up right. But a lot of people just explore, oh, that doesn't feel right, and then spend a whole minute working through that. Well, why was that transition so sloppy? And then all of a sudden it's like, and then you'll see them do some kind of, I don't know, voodoo or something like that. Or
Yeah, I like voodoo. Mm-hmm.
And then the reason I'm not rolling up normally is because my back,
my psoas must have been the psoas, Dan.
my psoas is too tight. I got a psoas. I did last Thursday from squatting, I'll tell you that.
So, yeah. I mean, I would invite the gentle listeners to think about if somebody just spent, I don't know, a phase or a season on snatches and or swings, but snatches is the one we brought up. The carry family, the crawling family, the variations on hanging and variations on the deadlift family. I mean, how much more functionally integrated would that person be at the end of the season? I mean, I think it would be hard to deny that would fix probably a lot of the physical asymmetries, at least, that so many of us have in our modern culture. That would just be, I think, an awesome sort of selection of exercises. I see people are putting in hill sprints here. I'm a big fan of that. So yeah, I mean, monkey bars. So I mean, we could have the running in there, but I'm a big fan of just, hey, like 2 days a week, 1 day a week. I love sprinting the hill, got a hill, walk back down, little jog, sort of around the block. I don't even do it for time or anything. I just do it just based on the length of my neighborhood streets, right?
Yeah.
Sprint, jog, walk, sprint, jog, walk, sprint, jog, walk. And then, I do it till I just don't feel like, like I feel like I got one more really robust round in the tank. I stop one time before that. Right.
Mm-hmm. And in the 1950s and early 60s, Percy Cerruti was having his athletes do that workout. And that's how they became, some of the best middle distance runners in history. I mean, it's a pretty simple formula. And that, I think, is the secret there, is that, I am working on, by the way, a 10,000 snatch challenge. I already think I know what I'm going to do with it. I can't decide whether I'm in the middle right now of my Olympic lifting peak. So I don't want to be doing, I don't want to be throwing in 500 snatches a day.
Right. But after this Olympic lifting effort, the kettlebell snatch will feel a little bit more mild, I suppose. Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I think that, gosh, let's even make it simpler. I mean, if you're doing the kettlebell snatch, you're picking it up off the ground and you're putting overhead. So you got 2 there. And if you add a freaking wader walk after every, you do a set of 5, do a wader walk with the weight over your head. Boom. There you go, folks. The absolutely perfect, never better minimalist workout. You do a set of 20 snatches, you wader walk, 20 meters, put the weight down, pick up with the other hand, 20 snatches, wader walk, put down. You do that for 500 for 20 days, and then get back to me and tell me if what else you were missing every workout.
Right. Eat a little psyllium husk, get to bed on time, all your problems will be solved.
What do you think about this 10,000 snatch idea?
I mean, I'm sure you're going to come up with something quite brilliant. And if it's, I mean, that's just a lot of snatches, but
It's a
10,000,
lot of
10,000, if anything, is a lot, and that's why we attached the name challenge to it. So I don't know, man. I'm excited to see what you come up with that, Dan, because you always have a way of surprising me, of taking something that seems like, oh, I don't know how that could be done, but then you have a way of making
Yeah.
it doable. So
Well, I'm not. Well, I mean, I already know it. It comes down to one thing. What is the one thing?
I don't know. I don't know what the
I'm
answer
going to let
is.
you think on it for a moment.
Okay.
Because the answer comes down to one thing: on getting 500 snatches a day.
Okay, so you do have to get 500 snatches a day. I don't know. The easy thing to me is just the intensity variable, I guess, is the one thing, but that doesn't seem to be the
You're on
right
the right
answer.
load.
Okay.
Load.
Yeah, load. Yeah, that's what I was thinking in terms of intensity, right? Yeah.
Load. Yeah. So you're not going to do it with a 24K.
No, of course not.
Now, there's going to be someone on the line who's going to, grab their scrotum sack and say, "Oh, don't you know who I am?
Is that what Instagram commenters are doing, Dan? I was always
The thing is, Christina, I have to read these shit comments on my. Oh, sorry, I know you got kids listening. Sorry, kids. But I'll be reading on. I'll get these little things, and so somebody asked me how to press the beast, and so I answered how you press the beast. And in my case, the first time you saw it, you picked it up and you pressed it because it's only 48 kilos. Well, why do you do it why are you doing kettlebells and not dumbbells? Because it's a thing called the beast. It's like, why are you picking up the Dinnie stone in Scotland? Because it's the Dinnie stone and it's in Scotland. Mm-hmm. So to pick it up, you have to, how do I explain this better? You have to go there.
You have to go to Scotland, right?
Pick it up. So that's something I get, is like that pushback I get constantly. Really, I got to be honest with you. I'm not saying it's wearing me down. I mean, it's just a bunch of idiots.
Yeah, that's the nature of. I think it is the nature of Instagram, because Instagram is still kind of the Wild West enough. With our podcast here, certainly, I think there's a natural filter. As the way the content is presented, it's longer form. We like to go in depth, so people who are just kind of like very fleeting with their attention spans and kind of trollish, I think they naturally filter out, which is not the case with the Instagram platform. So what I'm saying is, you guys listening to this podcast are always awesome. So it's not directed at you, of course.
No. Oh, and even so, I mean, I can also tell sometimes when the person is just kind of having a good time, but it's that little idea when you go on and, I never had it, I snatched 700 pounds. I've never had an issue with my wrists. Well, no one in history has ever done it. So, they're right. And what the thing I hate the most, in fact, that's one thing I like about Mark Twite's site. If you don't post your name, you're called you become anonymous coward. You're always anonymous coward if you don't post your name. And if you post and you don't include your email, you're an anonymous coward. And and it's funny because when you see anonymous coward, you know that the person didn't put their name. They didn't put a real name and didn't put an email address.
That's interesting. I might have to borrow that.
But he allows the post to stay.
Mm-hmm.
But
whatever. By the way, not to get distracted, and I want to take some questions here. Whatever happened to Mark Twite? Because he started Jim Jones, right?
And then
but he's not associated with that anymore. No, sorry, I haven't kept up.
And I don't, honestly, even though I know everybody involved, I don't really know the story. I don't. And the thing is, because I know everybody, how do you even say this nicely? My mom used to say it takes two to tango. And because I know everybody, I don't want to know the story, because it's like,
sure,
I know people I like to.
Yeah, and I wasn't even necessarily asking for the I guess the breakup story. That's it. I just was curious what Mark is actually doing these days, because I just have not kept up with that. Because he was big rock climber, from what I understood.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Is he back doing that, or I'm just curious?
I read an article by him not long ago. It was very good. He's doing fine. I called him after it. He never got back to me. Folks, if you'd see Mark, tell him hello from me and tell him to give me a call. I'd love to talk.
We'll do that. All right, let's take some questions before we have to wrap up here. Anthony wants to know, are these exercises bad in general or because of over focusing on them? I think probably the answer is it depends, but a little column A, a little column B. Dan, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, let me say this. I think like the leg press is a bad exercise.
Yeah, and there can be some exercises that are bad just for a particular person. Like if somebody's shoulders are shaped a particular way, right? It's just going to be the case that certain pushing patterns are just not going to be a great selection for you, right?
You'll see that, people have listed like the upright row was considered, I guess, really hard on some people's shoulders. Never bothered me.
Yeah, same dips, for example. They do bother a number of people, but they feel great for me. But I'll tell you what, bench press does not. It always, my left shoulder on a barbell bench press always just feels pretty awful afterwards, right?
Adolescents their sternum hurts when they do dips. And yet, if I had a choice between with an adult of doing dips versus bench, it'd be dips every time. I've never seen anyone die doing dips, but people have died doing bench.
I saw somebody annihilate. I didn't see it. I heard it afterwards. I should clarify, of somebody who annihilated their face with the bench press and got really lucky that it was like, I don't know, I guess this far away from crushing their brain, right? So it just destroyed the whole lower half of his face and skull, and of course was severely traumatic and has forever affected and altered that poor man's life. He survived, thankfully, but it could have easily gone the other way around. Now, doing a pretty ridiculous amount of load in a gym by himself without a spotter and a lot of issues leading up to it, but that, right.
Yeah. Craig Carter, the Utah State hammer thrower, was bench pressing, which makes no sense for that hammer thrower to bench, but the weight slipped and right there in his face. Dan Martin, Oakland firefighter, just told me a story about another guy who died with his GoPro on. But and again, I get it. Some people do the dip and they say it just destroys my shoulders. But my thought is, well, okay, now it's a cliche, but chicken or the egg? Did the dip hurt your shoulders, or did you do something, stupid down, upstream that hurt your shoulders? I think universally the leg press is a bad idea. I just, you just look at the way you're just smashing that body between, a rock and a hard place, leg extensions is funny. I've been told they're terrible for you. I'll do leg extensions anytime I see a leg extension machine.
Never saw a leg extension machine you didn't like, huh, Dan?
Yeah, and I like how it pumps up my quads, bro.
Sure.
I like it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Bro,
right before you go to the pool in summer, hit the leg extension machine, right?
You know how everyone digs Danny's quads.
Yeah, do some high rep, 15-pound curls too while you're at it. Yep.
That's right. So the answer is going to be again, it's going to have to the answer is a bit elegant. There's going to be a series of factors. What I do, I don't know who asked the question because I like the question. What I do is I fold my arms like this, and then I go, okay, I've had 15 boys complain about this exercise hurting their sternum. Let's look at it. Do I have another thing? Is it a bad exercise, or is it just the fact that they're adolescents? Okay, we'll pull dips out and we'll replace it with this variation that doesn't seem to hurt their shoulder. Box jumps. I banned box jumps because we kept getting those injuries from box jumps. Are box jumps good or bad? I don't know. But when people have to get surgery from an exercise, out. Okay.
Yeah. Excellent. All right.
But then this to find good options. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's just take one or two more here. I think we got time for that. There was one I wanted to highlight. I think this one will resonate with you. This is just a comment from Petri. Suggesting not an exercise selection, but an application that he feels is inappropriate. And he's saying heavy Turkish get-ups. He thinks there's no good reason to do them. So I had to stroke the ego. Dan, your thoughts?
Yeah, and the funny thing is, and Petri, I don't mind the question, but who gives it? Darn. I have yet. I've been at kettlebell certs where, oh God, when people are, doing Turkish get-ups they
bring in like a live donkey and they strap it to the
They go to the bar and do it. And it's like, I remember Brett Jones and I sitting there one time and these people were just putting on all these things. And it was interesting how much it bothered Brett. The people, and it's like, honest to God, we just wanted to talk, But it was the look at me, you know. We're sitting there and someone walks over with the deck of cards and like, look, I can rip a deck of cards. And then walked away. It was like, what in the hell? You know? But the thing is, you know, and when I write about heavy Turkish get-ups, I don't even comment on the podcast, my own podcast, when people add comments to it. The one I hate is, what do you mean by heavy? Well, I can guarantee, gentle troll, that what I mean by heavy and what you mean by heavy, mine's a lot more. I mean, I don't want to be but I mean, the Bigger, Faster, Stronger has a video of me jerking 385 for 5 reps. So I don't want to be an asshole. Sorry, gentle listeners. But once you flip 385 for 5 over your head, you know, listening to someone brag about a 88-pound Turkish get-up is a little hard to swallow, and to think that's elite performance.
Yeah, right.
I know I'm a jerk. I know I am, but I'm very strong.
Indeed. Yes, very strong indeed. Certainly nobody should deny that. Dan? All right, let's do one more here. Trying to find a good little closer. Thanks for all the comments and questions, everyone. I'm sorry we don't have
Andrew,
more time today.
Say here, does anyone know if dips are considered a vertical press?
Let's take that one. There we go. Yeah, we'll finish with that.
The thing I like about dips, in fact, the thing I liked about the Nautilus Duo chest machine is it was a dip. We were told, even as kids, that the decline press, the decline bench press, was probably the safest of the bench press family. And yet the number of gyms I've been to that have a working decline bench is zero. When I go to Europe with the throwing community, you see a little bit more. But the decline, the decline, so I'm on a bench and I'm benching this way, and that's very dippish. It's probably, I was told as a young person, I still think it's true, that's the best way to work those muscles and not get too broken. Yeah.
Awesome. Good stuff. Hey, Dan, before we say goodbye, what are you working on? What do you want to update people on? Maybe the book, perhaps? What else?
Sure. So I started week 3 of Dave Turner's program. I went and visited Dave yesterday. We talked about Olympic lifting for a long time. I gave him
awesome.
Easy Strength Omni book. I can smell the finish line. We'll go to publishing first. And next week, I'll be in the middle of some new challenge that I'll share with your audience that I can't believe I'm taking on this challenge again.
Awesome.
But if you know little Danny John, he can only stay on the park bench for so long. And I did Dave's peaking program because I needed something to kind of go to ratchet me up. I'm going to do one other thing, which I'll announce next week here on Pat Flynn.
All right. Well, then we know what we're talking about next week. People love challenges. So excited to explore that with you. Gentle listeners, thank you for tuning in. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Tell both of your friends about the podcast. Dan John, thank you so much for being here, and we will catch you next week.
All right. Take care, my friend.